Where in the world is Gonzalo Lira? Gonzalo Lira, to the best of my knowledge, and I don't know, I haven't looked into his background all that much. Some of y'all probably know more about him than I do. But I do know that he's, I think, somebody who was initially from Chile and then became an American citizen at some point in his life. He's around my age. He's actually a little bit older than me. And for the last, I don't know, year or so, he has been living in Ukraine, and he's been, or maybe the last couple of years, he's been living in Ukraine and posting videos to YouTube in which he is critical of Ukraine and supportive of Russia's efforts in that conflict. And the recent news about him is he was arrested apparently for the second time. He was held before, but then was let out. I think last year for a period of time. So this is the second time they've taken him in, and this time they held him for several months, and over that time, according to Gonzalo Lira himself, according to his own testimony, he was brutally beaten and extorted whilst in prison awaiting his trial. And according to his testimony, in the Ukrainian prison, there's a lot of men who are waiting for months or even years for their trial to come up, and they're just in the slammer for that whole time. And you got to imagine that Ukrainian prisons are not the most pleasant of prisons to be in, I would imagine anyway. I mean, as far as prisons around the world go, Ukraine is probably near the bottom. It's probably not at the bottom. It's probably worse to be, I don't know, in a prison in Chad or Angola or Paraguay. I don't know. But I imagine that the conditions in a Ukrainian prison are not the greatest, even when you're not being tortured and extorted, which apparently he was. He goes into some detail on his Twitter page, which you can read, about the abuse that he, again, says he suffered. It's his testimony. So, I guess if you want to question it, you can question it. But he also recorded 3 videos. It was actually one long video, but it was divided into 3 sections, I guess, because for whatever reason or purpose. But he said that they had let him out, and after extorting him and after getting paying his fellow prisoners to beat him up pretty badly and to do some pretty awful things, if again he's telling the truth, then he was told that he could leave. He was told that he could be out of the holding prison that he was in, but that he had to report for his trial. His trial date was yesterday, August the 2nd, and these videos that he recorded, I think, were on July 30th or 31st, or maybe August 1st, something like that. And in these videos, he talks about how they sent him a mixed message because they gave him his passport back, and they gave him back all of his effects, all of his identification, his national ID cards and so forth. And he says that his fellow prisoners had said, this is them saying, we want you to go. This is, we're going to hold this trial for you, but We basically just want you to leave. So he was going to try, at the point that he recorded these videos and at the point that he tweeted these tweets, he was saying he intended to ride his motorcycle to the Hungarian border and to ask for asylum there. And he said that if we didn't hear from him, shortly afterward, that they probably got him back, and he was probably going to be sent to this labor camp for 5 to 8 years in Ukraine, which he says is a death sentence. It'll kill him because he's not in the best of health. So that's where things stand with Gonzalo Lira. I understand that he also is someone who's known as one of his other avatars or names on Nom de Plumes was Coach Red Pill for a while, and so he was doing like sort of I don't know if it was MGTOW type of material or what, but then he was also commenting on the politics and I don't know what brought him to Ukraine and what made him decide while in Ukraine to broadcast these videos, which were openly critical of Ukraine and openly supportive of Russia. What I could see, what I would have respect for on the part of Ukraine, the Ukrainian authorities, if they handled this situation as follows. If they said to Gonzalo Lira, "Okay, buddy, we don't want you in our country anymore. We don't want you broadcasting your propaganda against us. So we're kicking you out. We're banishing you, and you are no longer welcome here. And if you come back, you will be arrested." If they did that, that would be perfectly understandable, and I would respect them for it. But to do this instead, to arrest a foreign national, hold him for months, and then threaten this this egregious sentence of being sentenced to hard labor for 5 to 8 years when he's not even a Ukrainian. I don't understand how that has been allowed to slide by anyone. I don't get why or how it is that the United States Embassy hasn't raised a ruckus and said, "You are holding one of our citizens, and he's done nothing wrong. He's committed no crime. He's just, expressed his thoughts on this conflict, on YouTube. So you need to let him go. We demand that you let him go." Apparently, the embassy has done nothing for Gonzalo Lira. Now, this is, suspicious. I'll just say, because of course the U.S. Embassy is very, they're like rah, Ukraine, and the United States government has spent or has sent tens of millions, hundreds of millions, I don't know, maybe even billions of dollars worth of war equipment and military aid to Ukraine ever since the beginning of this conflict. And here's a guy he was Chilean, but also American, also a naturalized American, as I understand it. And here he is saying, going against the party line, and they're not doing anything to help him. I mean, I it's hard for me not to see that as them just saying, if you're not with us, then screw you, screw your free speech. We're not gonna do our part for you, even though we have a responsibility towards you as an American citizen, and we are the American embassy. According to Lira, the Chileans sort of went to bat for him a little bit more, the Chilean embassy, but of course they have far less cachet, they have far less clout than the American embassy does. The American embassy can, and in this case they should have, raised a ruckus about this, but they did little to nothing. And I think that is an utter travesty. And I also don't understand how it can be justified that a foreign national can be and Lira himself makes this point, and I think it's a good point. I know this guy has his detractors, and I don't know everything there is to know about him, so I'm not necessarily standing up for him, for everything he's ever said or vouching for his good character or anything like that. But he did make the point that, look, this whole war, this whole support of Ukraine is ostensibly because Ukraine is supposed to be a democracy, and it's supposed to it's supposed to have democratic values and so forth. And here he is, all he's done is use his freedom of speech, and they're going to send him to a hard labor camp, and the U.S. government looks the other way, while at the same time saying, yeah, Ukraine is a democracy. We believe in Ukraine. Ukraine shares American values. And it's very obvious. It's very obvious that there's a disconnect there. So a lot of things wrong with what's going on in the case of Gonzalo Lira, and he hasn't turned up. Nobody's heard anything solid concerning him, but he didn't report back from Hungary saying, I made it through. Some people were critical of him for recording these videos when he was still in Ukraine. To me, it seems like, it's a good way of saying, I'm making a record of what I'm doing. I'm calling attention to this injustice that's being done against me. And, I think it was a smart move on his part, because he's much more conspicuous now. If he just kept it hush-hush, then nobody would have known about his whereabouts. Whereas now, since he hasn't shown up, what people think is that he was found by the Ukrainians and taken back, and now he's facing the surety of what he calls a death sentence, a hard labor sentence of 5 to 8 years for expressing his opinion on the Ukrainian-Russian war. It seems pretty messed up to me. So I know not everybody out there agrees with me with my thoughts on this Ukraine-Russia thing, but really, this is something where you need to separate even how you feel about the U.S. aid to Ukraine, the billions of dollars of military aid to keep this war going, and to keep the carnage going, and to keep people dying, and basically contributing to the destruction of this country, Ukraine, that you say you want to help. But putting all that aside, I'm editorializing a little bit on that. Putting that aside, you have to understand my points here, and if anybody is going to challenge me, I'd like to hear them respond to the points that I have made in this video. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Look forward to hearing thoughtful responses. But anybody who just is going to do the ad hominem stuff, I'm not going to tolerate that. Okay, thanks for watching.